Welcome to Share Talk, the only podcast where investors come first.
Today we have an executive chairman and managing director. In this case, it's Christian Schaffalitzky of Eurasia Mining. How are you today, Christian?
Very well, thanks.
Right, I haven't interviewed you for quite a while, and a lot has happened. A lot seems to be happening. Could you run us through some of the latest events, please?
Certainly. I don't remember when we last spoke, Zach, but basically we've been on a somewhat longish road getting to where we are today, but we seem to have arrived. Firstly, at West Kittlem, we have now gone into full production at the mines, at the first of the mine sites in the West Kittlem license at a place called Malaya Sosnovka. And we are producing very well there. We'll be announcing some first production figures shortly. And the other area we've worked, our other main license is Monchetundra in the Kola Peninsula, where we had approved 2 million ounces of PGM equivalent reserves approved by the Russian government and had applied for a mining license. And now we're pretty much on the final lap of getting the mining license there. And because we have our financing structure largely in place, we believe we'll be able to get going fairly quickly.
So it seems to be the events here have been like London buses. You know, you wait for a long time and then get three in one go. Is that a good analogy?
Well, why not? But certainly, it's always frustrating when things don't go the way you want, and when they do go your way you want, it's actually mildly surprising. But it does sort of point out that a lot of people say that it's difficult to work in Russia, and I'm not going to say it's easy, but certainly you can do business there in a normal way, and you can see that by the way we've been able to get results now.
And is it part of the recent success, let's say, due to Russia being very keen on developing its assets, its mineral assets?
Well, I would actually, on that score, I'm not totally convinced, because certainly their mining law could do with freshening up. It's actually very clunky. But and what's more to the point, that we have a very experienced team in our head office in Ekaterinburg in the Urals, and they've been, running the show, doing all the hard graft of getting the paperwork ready for the license applications and so on. And this just requires patience and persistence, and the system works as long as you follow the rule book.
And in terms of what you have in your portfolio, what is can you just run us through? Are these large assets, medium, world class? I mean, how do investors look at them?
One always has trouble doing this because being the executive in the company, I'm not allowed to speculate about these things despite knowing quite a bit about it. But let me just say that at West Kittlem, we have what is basically an alluvial platinum mine. It's throwing off a fair amount of platinum. I'll be providing the numbers shortly. And we have a potential to increase production at a second site this year. It depends on the contractor's own availability of equipment and also on clearing of the site from some timber has to be cleared from the site, which is commenced. So, we're quite optimistic that the production will be quite good this year, well beyond our own projections. And on the other side, I should say that is a steady earner for the company, and will be hopefully able to produce for more than 12, even 14 years, just steadily producing it's very simple technology, very simple processing. And then moving to the second site, which I spoke about, Monchetundra, that's what we would call a company maker. 2 million ounces is a nice start. There is potential to increase that in the Kola area where we're working, and it is based on 2 open pits. Again, with a 10-year life, we aim to produce somewhere in the region of 130,000 ounces of PGM equivalent. That means there will be platinum, palladium, lead with platinum, and also copper and nickel. The nickel is actually quite valuable at the present time because of the nickel price. So that is a significant project, and 2 million ounces is not a small deposit.
Right, and then obviously you have your current market cap around 8 million. I can suggest, let's say, as I'm not yet an executive of your company, that you're at a base. The market regards you in just very modest terms, as far as the value that's there at the moment, at least.
Yeah, I mean, my own view of the AIM market is that you have a kind of a threshold which is hard to define. At what point do you pass it? Everybody seems to sit in the doldrums for significant periods of time, and they build their companies up, and suddenly there's a breakout. And I would hope that we're nearing that point, that people will start to spot what we can do. And hopefully we'll get some institutional support. A lot of retail at the moment is what dominates our share register, apart from 40% of the company is, if you like, unavailable to the public, but the balance is largely retail.
Right, so presumably it's the 10 to 20 million pound market cap. Above that, that's when the institutional people may turn up. I take a general rule, isn't it?
I think so, yes, that's right.
Right, and in terms of what we're looking forward to for the rest of the year, could you run us through that?
Well, we would hope that we would get the final approval of the mining license, which means it gets signed by the Prime Minister sometime in September, perhaps, or earlier if we're lucky. And then we'll be in a position to put in place the development plan with our turnkey engineering group, Sinosteel. We signed this agreement with them to build a plant, which also included financing for 85% of the project. So obviously we have to find the 15, but we have a number of lines open to us to fill in the 15% without having to go to equity for shareholders. So basically what we would hope would be the case by the end of the year is that we'll have shown we've had a good income from West Kitlam, and we'll be ready to start developing a bigger mine in Kola.
Right, that's the easy bit of the interview over, where I offer the soft questions. But there actually are a few questions from shareholders, which you may have partly answered already. I don't think there's anything too difficult here, though. But I'll just run through them quickly, and you can just feel free to bat them back or not. First one: will ore from Monchetundra be processed at nearby Norilsk plant?
The Norilsk plant in Monchetundra is actually designed for processing copper and nickel ore. And I'm not totally, in fact, I don't know if the specs of our concentrate, which is actually largely sulfides of nickel and copper, in which we have the PGMs, and the PGMs are, if you like, the most valuable part overall of the concentrate. I'm not sure that the plant can process that. In other words, if they were able to take the copper nickel, you'd then have to send the residue for processing for the PGMs. I don't know if they have a PGM circuit in that plant. But put it this way, that's going to be one of the most important questions to ask. If you look, perhaps the best analogy would be to say that if you go into Finland next door, there is a mine and plant called Kevitsa, which is owned by Boliden, which is producing concentrate very similar to ours, and it's going straight to certain types of refineries that take that kind of feed. That's the best answer I can give you at the moment.
Okay. Is the contractor likely to expedite production this year by utilising the second trommel scrubber?
Yeah, that question refers to the second site we've spoken about at Kluchiki, which is the next one in the schedule for development. And as I mentioned earlier, we've cleared trees there, and the contractor has started to do some site prep. As I said, it depends on the availability of his own equipment. The actual bulldozers and shovels that make sure that they're available to supply a second trommel. But it's very much in everybody's mind, because of course the more we can produce, the more money everybody makes.
Is it likely that the Semonovsky Tailings Project will go ahead?
That is a more difficult question, in that I've been talking to a lot of different people with different financial structures proposed, and I have to say we've not yet been successful to find a solution to that idea. But the real problem seems to be that the sum of money required is too small for banks. It's about $5 million total, and it obviously would suit some sort of specialist investor, which is the type of people we're talking to. But for the moment, I don't have a solution.
Okay, well, we'll see how things work out for you. Christian Schaffalitzky, Executive Chairman and Managing Director of Eurasia Mining, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Remember to visit our website for more news and other podcasts at www.share-talk.com.